Now, I've never repeated a list like this before, but I felt quite conflicted about my video last week where I focused on thick watches and narrowed in on robust models that people would wear when they need to be rough and ready. Now yes, that is when I would wear them, but I think it's unfair to assume that everyone with a larger wrist or who just prefers a larger watch would only want them for that purpose. So today I'm going to revisit the concept of thick watches, but this time I'm going to focus on refined models that aren't just built to take a beating. As before, I'm using the definition for a thick watch as anything beyond 12mm, and the rule set will also be the same, but just a very quick recap if you haven't seen the first video. The watch needs to be 12mm or thicker, available under $1,000, and for the sake of variety, each brand can only feature once. In the exact reverse of my previous video, this time I'm going to focus on form over function to give a bit of balance. Of course, that also means there won't be any repeats in this list. And with all that said, let's get into the video. Now, your first thought when seeing this watch on the list might be, hold on a minute, I thought you just said form over function and now you're talking about a G-Shock. However, I can assure you I am not going to speak about what this watch can do for a second. Instead, I want to talk about Alien Romulus. Like a lot of modern media, no one has any original ideas anymore, and they just make modern iterations of stuff from the past. I think that's really lame. However, this film isn't bad, and it does a pretty good job of capturing the aesthetic from the original, and then dousing it in red light. Why am I saying any of this? Well, honestly, it's the first thing this watch makes me think of when I see it. It looks like a piece of abandoned but still working retro tech. It is a whopping 17.5mm thick though, so even though I really love the look of this, it won't fit me, and I'm very jealous of anyone who can pull it off. At the time of researching this video, the black model of this watch was available on the official Spinnaker site for just over 40% off, and I think it's a really attractive model. The two crowns is a key indicator that this is a watch with an internal dive bezel, and that complication adds to the thickness, with this model coming in at 15mm. An internal bezel isn't a complication I've had in my collection before and would usually come in at a much higher price point than this. I think it's an excellent value proposition with a great design, stainless steel, AR coated sapphire, a Seiko NH35 and exhibition caseback. And for that, at this unreal sale price, it gets my recommendation for the video. The only thing I would add as a bit of an oddity is that it's rated to 180 meters of water resistance, which I can't say is a specific depth rating I've seen anywhere else. The Bulova Lunar Pilot is quite famed for being an attractive watch that most people simply can't pull off because it's too big. Well, given the premise of this video, I'd say it's perfect to feature. I won't dwell too much on the story behind this watch, as it's been done to death on YouTube and in their advertising material. Just know that it's based on a watch that went to the moon. And that is one of the reasons it's so chunky. I've suggested the NATO strap option because I feel it's a little more authentic to the original. A word of caution though, even in a video about thick watches, 45mm in diameter and 15mm thick is quite a lot. So unless you have watches this size already, I definitely recommend a try before you buy. But if it's a watch you can pull off, it's a cut price nod towards human history and endeavour. I have to say I found it quite surprising when doing research for this video that the Bambino 38 is actually 12.5mm thick and so qualifies under the rule set we've laid out. I think that it makes the perfect watch for the video because essentially it means that there is something for almost everyone here, as the Bambino range is available in larger size variants too. The price quoted is for one of the newer bracelet variants, which is good news because if you fancy one on a strap instead as a standard dress watch, the price will be considerably less than what I'm quoting here. The Aquascaphe is a watch that I have come very close to buying on several occasions. In the end, I went for an MRO one instead, but nonetheless I think the blue gilt version would have a strong shout for being the best looking watch on this entire list. It's got incredible coloration, which matches perfectly with the retro design language and looks especially good on a beads of rice bracelet. To match that, you're getting domed crystal, which is the reason that this watch comes in at 13mm thick. If you can live without Swiss made on your wrists, I can vouch for the quality of Baltic's timepieces. And really the only thing that's stopping me owning one of these is the Black Bay 54, which if you've known me and seen my videos before will realise is pretty high praise indeed. I was really tempted to feature one of the Seiko monster models on the list, as I think they're a great example of a watch that looks awful on people with small wrists, but amazing on people with larger wrists. However, it's my list and I just can't stand the crown at 4 o'clock. It ruins the visual balance for me and puts me in mind of a drooping appendage every time I see it. Instead, I've opted for the Great Blue, which is a Padi special edition model of the Samurai. This is a watch I dearly love to own. You'll have seen on the channel recently how much of an ocean fanboy I am. The design, use case scenario and aesthetics of this watch are brilliant, but it's far too big for me and I'm supremely jealous of anyone who can actually pull it off. It comes in at 44mm in diameter and 12.8mm thick with an in-house automatic movement, Lunar bright lume and sapphire crystal, so it's a strong value proposition too. I think the only way I could actually pull this off is over the top of a wetsuit, which really is the point, but I don't get that opportunity enough to make this financially viable, unfortunately. This model is 2 years old now at the point of making this video, but its design is based on the 1977 Challenge Diver model. One example of the original was found washed up on an Australian beach after a period of time lost in the ocean. It was covered in barnacles but still functioning, and the NB6021-68L is a homage to that watch. To be honest, that doesn't sound like the greatest claim of fame and comes straight from their advertising material, but it does explain why the outline of Australia features on the dive bottle that the watch ships in. This is an automatic titanium diver rated 200 meters. I won't pretend for a moment that design is particularly original, but it is nonetheless attractive. It's 12.3mm thick and it's going to cost you a hell of a lot less than a Submariner. The price I'm quoting here is for an X-Display model, so you can debate whether or not that counts as a new watch. At the time of writing, other models in the range were on sale at $970, so it definitely still qualifies. The model comes in just over 12mm thick, both Swiss made on the dial, sapphire crystal, the GL293 movement, which is effectively an ETA 2893, there's Swiss superluminova on the dial, which also boasts an aluminium bezel. As the name suggests, this has a GMT complication, and as it also indicates, the case is made from bronze. It's an absolute monster of a spec and was in serious contention for the recommendation of the video, but as only one person is going to get the watch at this price, I decided against that decision. I recently made a video where I experimented with trying to review a watch underwater. It's an extremely amateur effort, But when so many watches are designed with the idea of water resistance, dive timing bezels, helium escape valves and so on, actually using a watch fully submerged did make me realise a few things. One of them being that I think Doxa's approach was right. Colour makes such a big difference to how visible a watch dial is underwater, and Doxa's early adoption of bright, colourful divers not only sets them apart, but also just makes sense. If you've got a larger wrist and want to add something bright to your collection, the Sub 200 is a really good option. I wasn't quite able to find a new one for less than the $1,000 mark, but I came pretty close in my hunt. So with a bit of patience, I think it would be possible if this is a model you like the look of. I almost forgot to mention, it's 13.8mm thick and comes in at 42mm in diameter. I will be honest, to find one of these under $1,000, you're going to have to do some real graft and hunting. When scripting this video, I was checking prices and speaking to sellers on eBay to see how low they would consider going for individual pieces. It was touch and go whether or not I was going to feature this or the Pagani homage to it, but I can confirm that yes, it is possible to pick one up under $1,000, but I personally would probably go over that budget to find one in better condition if I was making a purchase. A Swiss-made chronograph is not an inexpensive thing to buy into, and I think you're very unlikely to find any others for a reasonable price point that have the style of the PRX. It's a big heavy watch that won't suit slimmer wrists though, with its 42mm diameter, 14.5mm thickness and 184 grams of weight, with that extended lug to lug thanks to its inflexible end links. It does look great though. So there we have it, my top 10 best thick watches under $1,000 that have a bit of refinement to them. What do you think of my list? Do you have any of the models featured, or are they on your radar? Have you got any experiences to share? Are there other models you think should have featured, or any that you think shouldn't be on here? Let me know in the comments section below, and if you've got anything watch related you want to see a video from me about, I've got a stockpile of my own ideas, but I'm open to suggestions. As ever, thank you for your time. If you've enjoyed what you've seen or found it informative, consider dropping the video a like and subscribing for more content like this.